I was working at Trinity Hill United Methodist Church as program director. When I grew up in Arkansas, and in college I started going on a trip called the Colorado Trail Hike. And we would take 10 or 20, sometimes 25 young adults backpacking in the wilderness around the Maroon Bells of Aspen, Colorado. A great trip. Well, I went every year from my one of my college years until I moved here. It was a great adult trip, very spiritual. When I started working here in Kentucky at Trinity Hill, and Debbie and I married shortly thereafter, we talked about this trip and how neat it would be to have adults from Kentucky go. So we organized between our churches, at that time Trinity Hill and Epworth United Methodist, and we started conducting the Colorado Trail Hike. Well, it took me a little time to convince the church that my taking 2 weeks to go to Colorado to backpack, which I love doing, was really work, and I didn't have to count it as vacation. I finally convinced them, and so it became a regular, every other year occurrence. Well, we were coming off the mountain in 1987, off Lost Remuda Basin in the back wilderness of Colorado. Had a great trip behind us, and as we were coming down the mountain, literally coming down the mountain, one of the guys says, "Well, Lee, when are we going in '89?" And I said, "We're not going in '89." And everybody was shocked. I was surprised that I said it because I had no idea why. They said, "Oh, you're just tired." I said, "No, I'm fine, but we're not going in 1989. Okay. On the bus ride home, they said again, "Lee, we got to get it on the calendar. When are we going?" "We're not going." Still didn't know why. 1988 rolled around, and our council on ministries met for their planning, and they said, "Lee, you haven't said anything about the Colorado trip next year." I said, "We're not going next year," and they couldn't believe it because I had pushed and pushed the church for that trip. January 1, 1989, New Year's Day, '89, Art and Libby Logue in the house behind us invited Debbie and I for New Year's Day to come and have a nice day with them. So we arrived, got in the house, and Art Logue, the director, was laying on the couch, and Libby was there, and Art didn't get up to greet us. Well, we didn't think a lot about that, but not too long after we'd been there, Libby invited Debbie to the back room and said, leaving Art and I alone in the room, and Art whispered to me to come by, and I knelt down beside him on the couch, and Art said, "My cancer is back." Well, he had had cancer 17 years before, and it had been a big deal, and he had been in remission. I said, "Art, what can I do?" And he said, "I need your help to get camp ready for this summer." I said, "I'll do anything you want." So I went back, and Howard Olds was the pastor at Trinity Hill at that time, and I asked Howard and the church if I could have some time each week to come out here. So they paid me for 20 hours a week, all of March and April of 1989, and I came out here by myself, spent 10 hours a day for 2 days a week, just getting things ready, mowing and repairing and just having a blast. And I was really enjoying it, but there was a lot to do. In the meantime, Art and Libby came to live with us in Lexington because he needed to go to the Marquis Cancer Center, and we were his transportation. So they came to live with us for a while. Well, soon it became apparent Art wasn't going to get well in time to run summer camp. So the camp committee at that time, they about decided to close the camp down the summer of '89. And then Ray Gibson was the council director at the time. Ray came to me and said, "We're thinking about closing the camp down unless we can find a director immediately. Would you be interested?" Well, I had no idea that was coming. We prayed about it. Debbie and I thought about it. Things were going so well at Trinity Hill, but it seemed like something I could do. So I said, "Okay, I'll do it." And I came on, started May 8th, 1989. I was an associate director of the Kentucky Annual Conference in charge of camping and youth ministry. David Sparks was a volunteer working with me for youth programming. And that was our first year. Debbie stayed in Lexington, I was out here. My father came in and helped a lot to get things ready, and camp began. Well, I knew nothing about running a summer camp, but I was learning quickly. Right in the middle of July, in the heart of camp, it dawned on me that I could not have taken 20 adults backpacking in Colorado, and that's when the trip would have been, right in the middle of July. And I couldn't have done it. I couldn't, because there's 6 months of preparation, there's all this practicing. And I realized at that point that God had cleared my calendar 2 years in advance for something, and this was it. So God had prepared me for Aldersgate way back in 1987 before I even knew why.